Hi and welcome to a Christmas special of Sailing Melody. In today's episode, we get the boat moved. We start thinking about redesigning the inside of the pilot house, and also we answer a load of your questions from the comments.
I'm Andy.
I'm Melissa.
And I'm Jack.
And together we're working on restoring our sailing yacht.
Some of you might think we're crazy taking on the challenge of restoring this boat and creating a life less ordinary.
And we're sure there will be blood, sweat and tears, but it'll all be worth it when we embark on our epic adventure around the world.
Hey everyone, we got here this morning and they've moved the boat, which is fantastic news because we're really right next to the electrical supply, so we can do some proper work on the boat now. We can do some welding, we can get stuck in a lot easier. It's a lot more convenient where it is, so thanks very much guys for moving the boat. That's really good. Yeah, so what we're doing is we've got the guys from the yard to lift up the front of the boat a bit because she was nose down, so all the water that was all the rainwater was pooling at the front of the cockpit. Oh, thank you. All the water was pooling at the front of the cockpit and pooling at the front of it on all the stringers. So and it was just nose down. So what we've had to do is just get the guys to lift the front of the boat, and we're chocking it so it's slightly back rather than slightly forward. So she's all propped up on the nose now at the right angle, which means she's not going to be pooling water in the cockpit all the time. And we're now in a position where we can work on her properly. Oh, that's much better. That's much better. That's a much nicer angle for her to sit at. Everything's going to drain properly now. Just thought I'd bring a little gift to the lads in the yard. They've been really helpful to us, move the boat into a better spot, so I thought I'd leave them a little something to say thank you. That might make them happy. First things first, cup of tea. Oh, did you bring the milk up?
Yeah. It's a bit cold.
What, the weather or the coffee?
The weather, not the coffee.
Let me show you one of the issues that we're encountering. Obviously, every one of these stainless posts is stainless, obviously, and it's bolted through into the mild steel. And there is some silicone or what looks like some sort of barrier there, but I don't think that's doing its job, because at every point there is corrosion. So when you look from a distance, you see all this massive amount of rust, and a lot of it is just this. Look, it's just rust staining on the paint. But obviously there are some issues here. So what I've done is, earlier on we started at the front of the boat and we started cleaning this up and just treating it. It's not a perfect job. We're going to do the job properly in the spring. But as you can see, here's one I did earlier, and the steel is good. It's actually, I think this redness is where, because I was working outdoors, and where I'd been grinding, there was some grindings on the floor, and when we painted this, obviously that's unfortunately blown up and landed, but we can just retreat that area. But my point is, once you grind this back to bare steel, and I then use we use the needle gun and a grinder with a flap disc and a wire wheel, and then we use some rust converter and paint it up, and it's come back fantastically. The other issue we had on the day that we did this was the day we cleaned it all up, started painting, and no sooner did we start painting, the heavens opened, so we ended up having to hold a tarpaulin up in the air and paint under the tarp, because we had to get the paint on that day because of the rain. So that's not the end of the world. That's easy enough to get back to where it was, but at least that's covered up, and will survive till the spring when we can do the job properly instead of just deteriorating more and more over the winter. One thing that we're contemplating is a major rebuild, which is to move the galley down here into the saloon and have the upstairs just as a living space. We'll keep this area as a living space,
Living space, and be able to convert it into a double for guests.
Yeah, and then not have the galley upstairs, but have a more comfortable living and seating area upstairs in the pilot house, which will also give better access to the aft cabins when we put them in. So what were you going to say?
The galley will be, I think it will be better cooking underway if it's lower down.
Lower down in the middle of the boat,
rather than up in the pilot
higher
house.
up, swinging around.
So the plan is, I think, is to put the galley over there. We've noticed when we sit down here, we only ever tend to sit on this side anyway.
The floor, the flat floor of the boat carries all the way out to here. So it's not like you're going to have to be standing in the companionway to cook. I won't stand quite that close, but we can have the work surface here.
Yeah, the work surface can recess.
Can recess behind it. So upstairs, one of the... You are?
Right, you just filmed me like trying to blow hot steam rings.
Did you? Well, that will be some good outtakes. One of the reasons for moving the galley downstairs is we're good friends with Pamela Wall, and if you've never heard of Pamela Wall, where have you been?
You should look her up.
You should look her up. She's kind of our mentor and guide for all of this stuff, and if you look her up, you'll see why. But one of the pieces of advice she gave, which we already knew, but it's golden advice, is that you really need to have pilot berths, off watch berths, within shouting distance of the helm. And most of the time, whoever's on the helm is going to be out here. So we're going to reconfigure this. So we'll be moving this galley. I say we will. I'm sounding very certain. That's the plan. Move this galley downstairs. We'll have a watch berth here, and we'll have a U-berth on this side, which converts into a watch berth. So we'll have lovely seating communal area up here, with berths on starboard and port for whatever tack we're on when we're underway. And it means that whoever is off watch can sleep upstairs on starboard or port and still be in shouting distance of the helmsman.
And we have a spectacular view from up here. However, we're well aware that pilot houses get really warm, so we'll still be able to retreat down into the dark hole of the saloon. Absolutely.
So and something else we've considered doing, some advice on this would be good. These windows are toughened 10mm glass, and they're the same kind of stuff you'd have in a fishing trawler, so they're not going to break. But one thing that I would quite like to do, and we've always done on every boat that we've had, is use Lexan Macrolon polycarbonate tinted, because it keeps some of the sun out. You can bolt them on the outside, it's easier to maintain, they're more durable, but over a large span like this, I wonder whether Macrolon would have too much flex and whether you'd end up having to go for something so thick that it would be prohibitively expensive. Those are all considerations. But another thing that we may well do is in the middle of each one, or at least one of them, put an opening hatch so that we can maintain airflow through the whole boat. We can open the doors at the back and open the opening hatch in the middle.
A hatch here and a hatch
or one either side, and that way we can keep good airflow for when we get to hotter climates. We can keep the boat cooler. We're going to need a stiff brush go and see if I can borrow the big petrol jet washer off the lads, because stupidly came here to clean the boat. And a lot of this is just green. It's not that bad. So came here to clean the boat. I've got the flipping jet washer, idiot. Okay, so we can borrow the jet washer from the yard, but we're not going to today after all. It's a big petrol one. But what we're going to do is book it for a day when we can come and have it for the whole day. So today we're just kind of hand cleaning, but the weather has turned, and this is what I mean about Wales. It's now blowing 30 knots. I don't even know if you can hear this in the camera. It's blowing 30 knots, pouring with rain. We're getting soaking wet, freezing cold. And that's what we're going to be doing for the rest of the winter.
After completely failing to clean the outside of the boat, it started pouring with rain. So Mum and Dad started to think about redesigning the pilot house.
Well, we've stopped cleaning the outside for a bit, so that we can come back and have the big jet washer booked for a day, or just remember to bring our own one from home. Yeah, the weather's just turned disgusting now, so there's no point getting soaked to the skin. Got plenty of getting soaked to the skin to do this winter, I think. So we better get used to it. Okay, so with it being rubbish weather, the next thing in the job list today is we're going to take some measurements of the pilot house, so that we can start working on some sketches, drawings, designs, some 3D stuff, 3D modelling and what have you, to see what we want the pilot house to look like. We might do some CAD, we might do some physical 3D models, or we might just do it in good old-fashioned draftsmanship, pen and paper, but we'll see.
This Vancouver 38 is the kind of thing that we want to do. You can see the U-shaped berth in the pilot house, and the R cabin has a bed like we're thinking of. Here's a picture of the seating in the pilot house. The floor is raised a little for a better view. We would have to move the steering wheel. That might cause us a problem. And here's the galley downstairs like Mum was describing earlier.
We've decided we're going to measure from the steel of the hull to the steel of the hull, because there's so many discrepancies in the width of these cabinets and the distance between the back of the cabinet and the hull and all of that stuff, that we were getting too many compound errors. So we're going to go from the steel to the steel where possible. Obviously that's problematic because we don't want to rip the cabinets out just yet. So I'm going to go into the engine bay to try and get as accurate as we can. This is just purely so that we can do some kind of sketches and 3D models of how we want the pilot house, when we're at home, and then we can get some idea with a reasonable accuracy of what the layout might be. Can't get measurements there. There's a solid steel bulkhead and the diesel tanks are right up against it. Right, we've got an accurate floor plan, steel to steel, of the size of the floor at the level where the floor is. I've done some drawings of the chart table, which are pretty accurate. It takes a long time to make these measurements, so it's going to take me a while to plan everything out. We've got the plans here, the original plans. We've kind of got the original plan taped back together. Whoever photocopied this, I think they must have been in a hurry, because they pushed it through the photocopier and it's full of folds and creases and buckles and bends. That has given me a problem, but it's not an insurmountable problem.
A small scale model like this means we can visualise our ideas in 3 dimensions and make mock-ups of different layouts as we go along.
Just before we go, I thought we'd show you what we achieved today, without the jet washer, I might add. So it was a bit pathetic and we didn't do it for very long. But a little bit of the paint actually looks better already. These areas of rust are very local, and the paint is actually, we're not going to keep the paintwork, obviously we're going to repaint the whole boat. But a lot of people are saying sandblast the whole boat, and we might do, but I honestly don't think we will, because spot blasting, yeah, depending on what we get back from the ultrasound. But the finish is good. There's scratches and there's little tiny, like this, little tiny bit, and that may end up, yeah, sure, it may end up being this big, but it's not rusted through. And for the most part, the paintwork is really decent. And also, it's very heavily faired. And if we spot blast the whole boat, we'll not only be repainting, we'll be refairing the entire hull as well. And I just don't think it's necessary. I think the finish has lasted 30 years. Is it 30 years? 40 years?
It was built in 1981.
No, yeah, it's 40 years. And the only places where, you know, she's gone, yeah, obviously she's had a scratch there. So that's gone, that needs doing. But the paint finish has not failed. And again, I'll just point this out. That's not rust, that's a rust stain that's run around from where there's rust around the window. So all that is just brown staining on the white paint. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out on the video because of the audio, because it's just really, really windy here. But you get the idea. Things aren't as bad as they first appear, and that's often the case with metal boats. It's often the case that they look worse than they are. Yeah, we're expecting there to be parts that are worse. We're expecting there to be parts that are worse than what we think they are, and that's fine. We're prepared for that. And if it ends up costing us more than we expect, that's fine too. It will still cost us less than buying a custom steel boat. And if it costs us the same as a production boat, that's okay. We've got our own boat. But what we haven't done is taken out a loan to buy it, exactly. We'll know the boat inside out. We won't have any debt on it.
Don't go away now, because we can answer a bunch of questions from the YouTube comments.
Merry Christmas Eve, everybody!
And also, Nadal Shawan, Feliz Navidad, and Merry Kirumeta.
Hi everyone, so we're too small a channel yet to do a Q&A. There's no point, we haven't got enough followers, so we're not doing a Q&A, but we have had loads and loads of questions on our YouTube videos, which we've kind of answered in the comments, and we love having them, so please do send us more. But we thought what we do today is very quickly just answer some of your questions. First of all though, before we get into the questions, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. We've had so many more subscribers, we've had so many more views. If you have a look at this graphic that I'm putting up now, you'll see how much the channel has grown over the last few weeks. For those of you that have been a bit confused about what's going on with Miss Rosie and Aeolus and what have you, just to clarify, what you're watching now is season 2, which is the story of how we're doing up this big steel boat. The other videos that you see with Miss Rosie, they're from season 1. We've still got Miss Rosie and we're still going to be sailing her. But thanks very much to everybody who's watched and subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and then you'll stay up to date with our episodes every Wednesday. So, getting on with the questions, we're going to rattle through these quite quickly because there's quite a lot of them. We don't want to make it too long. Question number 1 comes from, oh dear, Greg Bolito, and it says, this is good to see. Whose idea was this, and how long did it convince to take the others?
How long did it convince to take the others?
How long did it take to convince the others?
Yeah.
Is that not what I said?
No.
How long did it take to convince the others? So I'll start with that one really. It's not really my idea, although I've, as people who know me for a long time, Mark and Garradine and Chris Clark will tell you, I've wanted to sail around the world for years, for decades. And I've been sailing for decades and have had lots and lots of boats. And then when I met Melissa, I didn't have a boat, but the very first thing we ever bought together
On Valentine's Day.
on Valentine's Day was a boat.
On eBay.
On eBay, we bought a Pandora Mark 1.
Which we never sailed.
We never actually got around to sailing that, no, because we quickly decided that we wanted something with a bit more accommodation. So in terms of convincing Melissa and Jack to sail around the world, there's been absolutely no convincing.
We were watching one of Pam Wool's videos actually.
Hi Pam, happy Christmas, happy Christmas.
And
So
we were sort of like, should we do that? And then we were both like, yeah.
So we weren't kind of watching all the YouTube sailing channels or anything like that. It was watching Pam Wall and an interview that she did about Candarrick and looking around Candarrick that really kind of inspired us, and she really is our inspiration and our mentor, and we're good friends now as well, so which is ace. And after that we started getting into the YouTube sailing channels, so we were already kind of making plans to head off and sail around the world before we started getting into the whole YouTube thing really.
Yeah. Yeah, we were sort of, I don't know, we pretty much made up our minds instantly and then started researching and stuff.
That's it. And those of you who think it's kind of my project and I'm lucky to have found somebody who's prepared to do this with me, it's not like that. A lot of what's happening that you see on the videos is as much motivated by Melissa as it is by myself.
I tend to find the boats.
Melissa finds the boats. And
what about you, Jack? Did you take much convincing?
You're happy to sail around the world, aren't you?
Yeah, because there's wildlife.
You love the wildlife. You're really looking forward to it. We haven't had to convince you to sail around the world, have we?
No, all we've said, we're going to sail around the world and then have a day.
Okay, good. Next question, Melissa.
Are there multiple designs of this hull or is it a one-off? It was. You could buy a plan, wasn't there? That you could.
You couldn't buy the plans for this, no?
No, sorry, you couldn't buy the plans. You could pay for FL Steelcraft to make a similar model, but the person that bought it actually customised it and modified it to what he wanted.
That's right. So this particular boat was designed by a very famous yacht designer named John Teal, who's got books. He's an author and a yacht designer. So it's not a kind of back of the fag packet design. FL Steelcraft, this is the quick version. FL Steelcraft were boat builders in Wales in the late 70s and early 80s. They commissioned John Teal to design a range of yachts, a small one and a bigger one and a bigger one going bigger and bigger. John Teal designed them a range of boats, and you could commission FL Steelcraft then to build them for you to order. The particular guy that ordered this original boat picked the 35-foot boat from the catalogue, as it were, but then he requested certain modifications. He wanted a bowsprit and he wanted a different underwater profile, so a different keel design. He wanted a lifting fin keel, and ultimately had a sugar scoop added as well. So it's kind of a one-off, but it's a one-off based on a proper design by a proper yacht builder, by a proper yacht designer, and built by a proper boat builder.
And also...
Lots of proper.
Lots of proper. It's proper.
And also, do you still do the FL Steelcraft?
No, FL Steelcraft doesn't exist as a company anymore. What a shame, because it's beautifully made. Moving on, next question.
Do you have a project launch date for Melody?
Do you have a projected launch date for Melody? No, we don't. But what we want to do is get her in the water by the time Jack leaves primary school, which will be 2 years, 2.5 years.
Because I'm in year 4 now.
Something I would say about that, lots of people have said, and quite correctly so, it's going to take years and years and tens of thousands of pounds to get that boat finished. And I absolutely agree, but it depends what you mean by finished. If you mean gutted inside and out, bespoke interior, new mast, new rigging, new steering, new engine, new winches, new electrics. Yeah, absolutely. Tens of years and tens of thousands of pounds. But if you mean usable, that means not sinking, so a watertight hull that doesn't sink, with a working propulsion system, by which I mean sails and rig, working, not necessarily new, so new running rigging, probably new standing rigging. The sails are actually in good condition. The engine needs some work but doesn't need rebuilding and refitting. And an interior which is, yeah, the engine's fine, it starts. So, and an interior which is livable in. And again, bear in mind, people like Pam Wall, when she first set off on Candaric, it was a bare hull with a floor and camp bed and a cooking stove. It depends what you mean by finished. So we're happy to move aboard Melody once she's in the water, floating, and has got propulsion and steerage and is seaworthy and safe. We're not bothered about having every single last little detail finished. It might well be that we sail down to the Mediterranean with the sails that we've got and then change the sails in the Med. It might be that we get halfway around the world and decide to swap the engine out. But we just want to get the boat working, usable and seaworthy. So there you go. No proposed launch date, but a 2-year timeline. Next question, Melissa.
Thank you.
Here, this one's for you.
Is Jack 25 years old?
Are you 25 years old?
Absolutely not.
How old are you, Jack?
9.
You're 9. Jack is not 25 years old. Jack is 9 years old.
He may act very grown up, but he is definitely 9.
He's definitely 9. Next question. That was a quick one. So, I'm going to read the whole thing out because this is a lovely statement. Oh, we didn't say who that was from. That was from Truth Hurts.
Well, we'll put the comments up on the screen.
Yeah, okay. Well, this one is from Mark Clifton, who's messaged us a couple of times. We've been meaning to answer. Hi guys, have watched all of your videos. I think you're a wonderful family, thank you very much, and an inspiration to most people. You may, thank you very much, you may be wrong. To take on a boat this size and to want to sail around the world, great. Most of us can only dream, but if you have the bottle, and you certainly have, then I wish you all the luck in the world. Can I ask a couple of questions? How are you going to cover your living expenses? Are you going to self-school Jack? Have you thought about medical emergencies abroad as there's no NHS? So, Melissa, question number 1. How are we going to cover our living expenses and boat repairs?
We're going to be doing some work on board. We're going to do most of the work ourselves.
Yeah.
You may travel back to do some work, potentially.
I'm going to fly back to the UK every now and then to do a month's worth of work.
Yeah, we have a plan for income, and obviously we'll most likely be renting a property out, so we'll have some rental income.
Yeah, we have some property that we're going to rent out. We're going to be working as we go around, and I'm going to fly back to the UK periodically to get some jobs done.
And also, I'm going to have to go back for my
Yes.
Exactly.
Obviously, Jack has got cochlear implants, so we have to go back to the UK every so often for his appointments.
Jack can answer this question. Are you going to self-school Jack? What are we going to do about your school, Jack?
So we're going to be homeschooling.
You've spoken to Mothership Adrift about living on a boat and homeschooling, haven't you?
So to summarise, yes, we're going to be homeschooling Jack. I worked in primary schools as a teacher. I've worked in secondary as a teacher. And Melissa and I are both capable of teaching most subjects up to GCSE, I think.
But obviously, though, it will be quite a learning curve for us all.
And there's a big, bottom line is there's a huge network of families doing this. There's a lot of support, there's a lot of curriculums available. We're taking that side of things very seriously and looking into all the different options and curriculums available. So, yeah, homeschooling.
If anyone's got any suggestions of what curriculums they use, anyone watching it that homeschool aboard, then do let us know.
Mm-hmm. Part 3 of that question by Mark Clifton is, have you thought about medical emergencies abroad as there's no NHS? Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have obviously medical insurance and all that kind of stuff. I'm actually a paramedic. So I'm a paramedic currently with Welsh Ambulance Service. I've done advanced trauma life support. I'm planning to do, if possible, I may not get it done, but I'm planning to do an advanced paramedic practitioner's master's degree, so with a prescribing module as well before I go. And I will have a nice range of kit which I'm going to buy to stock the boat up really nicely. Partly, obviously, for our safety, but also because then I'm available to the cruising community on the anchorage.
Yeah, and the places, you know, it'd be nice for medical support, places
Yeah.
that we go, small little fishing villages and
Absolutely,
stuff like
yeah.
that. But he's a really handy person to have around if you injure yourself.
It's not a bad idea to have
He's
a
not very
paramedic on
sympathetic
board.
though.
I'm not, no, my bedside manner is awful. But yeah, I'm not very sympathetic, but I'm efficient, I get the job done. Next question is from Francis Montocchio. Francis Montocchio. Does Jack really have cochlear implants?
Yeah.
I don't mean to pry, I'm just deeply impressed by you all the more with having to deal with something like this. Well done. Do you really have cochlear implants, Jack?
Yeah, I can show them.
Yeah, go on then, over to you.
So this is, well, basically my cochlear implant. This is the battery pack. Oh.
That's the battery, yeah?
Yeah, and there's a magnet here which sticks onto my head. Does this? Yeah, it's on.
It is on, but it can't see around the side of your head.
Well, there's a magnet right here on my head, which I don't know.
Under the skin. There's a magnet under the skin.
Yeah, magnet under the skin. I had to have a operation for that. I don't know what.
Yeah, so Jack was born profoundly deaf. There was times that we worried that he would never speak, never be able to hear. So we used to do lots of sign language, which Jack's not really interested in at the moment. But he had no hearing until he was implanted at 17 months old, and then he had his implants turned on at 18 months. And then it was a slow process of introducing him to loads of different sounds and lots of speech therapy and lots of hard work. And now he doesn't stop talking. But what we will say is he doesn't hear like us. His hearing is different to everyone else, which is pretty cool because that's your magical superpower, isn't it? And the great thing is Jack, when it's noisy...
Did they test me up to like 100 decibels?
Yeah, so before he had his cochlear implants, they tested him to 120 decibels with hearing aids on, which is equivalent to the noise of a jumbo jet, and we had no reaction at all. So he was...
child would be...
Yeah.
The only comparable thing, really, is when a man is watching the Grand Prix and zones out his wife. That's the only comparable thing in nature where that level of deafness becomes sort of apparent. No, I can't say that.
To me, that's a... I do not understand the thing there, so I think it's a little...
Yeah. Jack still has selective hearing, but there's lots of times that Jack struggles with background noise and things, which are all considerations that we have to take into account when we're on the boat. We'll have to go back to the UK for appointments and things like that.
Yeah. So yes, that's it. Next question. I am new to this channel. Do you guys get a different boat every week?
No.
Tell us the
No
story
is
of
the
the boats
answer.
that we've had, Melissa.
So obviously
Yes.
on our sailing channel we've had Aeolus, which was our first little boat, which was a bilge keeler.
Which was sold.
We have sold Aeolus, so we no longer have Aeolus, but she stayed She has stayed local.
She has. A lovely guy called Alec has bought her,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be going sailing with Alec in the spring, no doubt.
Yeah. So
Good
she's
guy.
still in Carnarvon,
Yeah.
which is nice. And then obviously we bought Miss Rosie, or we got Miss Rosie. Andy sailed her back from Falmouth with the plan of sailing her to the Med.
And if you want to see the episodes of Sailing Back from Falmouth, go back to season 1, click on our channel, click on playlist and go back to season 1 and there's the whole of that journey there.
And
yeah.
also, don't turn it off now.
No, don't turn it off now, at the end of this episode. So, sorry Melissa, with the plan of sailing into the Med.
So the plan was to obviously sail Miss Rosie to the Med, and she is an amazing boat. She's lovely. We love her to bits, and she's not going anywhere yet. All the time that we can keep her, we will keep her and continue to sail her. But unfortunately,
She's too small.
She's too small.
Too small for a family of 3. But when we will be selling Miss Rosie when Melody is more complete, and if anybody is interested, do drop us a line. She's an incredibly well kitted out boat. She's got everything you could possibly want, and she's more than capable of sailing around the entire planet.
Yeah,
she's a blue water boat. But for a family of 3, she's the living accommodations.
Some people could do it, but we decided that we wouldn't be able to do it.
There is a family with 3 children on board sailing around the world in a Great Dane 28. But
I think they got 2. There's 4.
Got 2. There's 4 of them on the boat.
Yeah.
So for a couple, or you could do it with a family. The boat's capable. We just want something with a bit more room.
Yeah.
So we're keeping Miss Rosie until Melody is a bit further down, and we're going to be still sailing Miss Rosie.
But we hadn't actually, we decided when we got Miss Rosie that was it. We weren't going to get another boat.
Yeah.
And we were driving around on a rainy, windy day, and I managed to convince Andy to drive to Holyhead just to have a look round the boatyards. And we saw Melody sitting in the corner looking sorry for herself, and that's when the next day you rang the marina to ask about her, didn't you?
Yeah.
So
And
we hadn't planned to get Melody.
No, we hadn't. Right, next one. Oh, I've just, what have I done there? Right, this is a really good comment as well. From Elmer Burley. Again, there's got a couple of questions here. Hello, Captain Jack. You are a very informative sailor, and I can't wait to see you and your family in the future in Bahamas, Bootle Bay. I have a couple of questions maybe you can help me with. Number 1, where did the term knots come from?
So, by not, like, speed.
Not speed, yeah.
Yeah, speed. So, long time ago, they had, like, really long string.
String or rope, yeah.
Yeah, how long is it?
Oh, quite long.
Yeah, really long. They tied knots in it exactly the same, but that's size.
Can you remember how far apart the knots were?
75 inches. 76.
6 foot?
6 foot.
No, sorry.
7 fathoms.
7 fathoms, which is 42 feet. 1 fathom is 6 foot. 7 fathoms.
So about over a melody apart.
Yeah. 42 feet. Pretty much 1 melody from the tip to toe.
So every 42 feet.
So every 42 feet they put a knot in the rope.
Yeah.
And
they throw the knot overboard, and they count how many knots go overboard. If 3 go overboard, you're going 3 knots.
What
3
time
knots
frame?
in what time?
33 seconds.
In 30 seconds, yeah.
30 seconds.
Yeah, that's it. So that's good. Question number 2 from Elmer Burley. How many miles are there in a degree?
Can you remember that one?
I think it's 60, isn't it? Or is it? I'm pretty sure it's 60 miles in a degree. We'll check that out, but I think it's 60 miles in a degree. And if we're wrong, well, whether we're wrong or whether we're right, the correct answer will appear here.
Yes. Jack did watch loads of videos on it.
Yeah. And I hear you British, I don't understand this one. I hear you British say bits and pieces. What is that? Is it like fish and chips?
No, I say bits and bobs.
Bits and bobs.
Like
bits
we've
and
got a
pieces.
drawer full of bits and bobs, which might be the same as bits and pieces.
Maybe? Is that the same?
No,
Bobs.
I don't think, as far as I'm aware.
Bits and bobs, bits and pieces, it just means stuff.
Yeah. Stuff that, you haven't got.
Yeah, if you've got a drawer full of stuff. a drawer
Everyone
full of
has
bits and
that
pieces.
drawer, don't they, in the kitchen,
Yeah.
full of bits and pieces.
And fish and chips. No, if you've never had British fish, we've just had fish and chips for dinner from the local chippy, and it was very nice.
And also, I said I feel as fat as Henry the
8th.
Henry the 8th.
You did.
Next question. Right, Melissa, you can read that one.
Oh yes, Terry Taylor, thank you for your comment. Hi guys, wouldn't it have been safer to leave the guardrails and running rigging till last? The boat is pretty high up. One false move and you're over the edge. Think of little Jack, take my advice, keep Jack and your wife off the foredeck. You must make a stern rule from now on, only yourself to be on the foredeck at one time. Right, I'll answer this one. Jack, he's very well trained, aren't you, Jack? We're very aware of the dangers of boats, and we're very aware about Jack falling over, and Jack is very aware. We make him hold on, and we are always present if he goes forward. As to me, I'm perfectly capable of moving around a boat. You don't need to send me to the cockpit, Andy.
No. I would be in a bad place if I banished Melissa to
Once
the cockpit
again,
and in my misogyny insisted that Melissa stay put. That would be a bad move.
it would be a bad move. So we
Now!
yeah, exactly. But we all work together on this project. It's not Andy doing the work and me making the dinner.
Absolutely, and we do appreciate your concern, Terry. Absolutely, it's a very we genuinely do appreciate.
But the guardrails are off at the moment because we're treating under them. As soon as we have treated under them, then they will be going back on.
And also bear in mind there are lots of days when I'm at work because working for the ambulance service, where Melissa will go to the boat without me, and she'll carry on doing metalwork and grinding and cutting and painting without me there. So it's not just I'm doing the work and Melissa's making the tea.
And if that was the case, I definitely couldn't stay in the cockpit.
No.
Oh, and also, by the way, you do make some very nice tea.
Thank
You
you.
do, yeah. It's not just me doing the work and Melissa making the tea like a good wifey. Half the time Melissa's doing the work and I'm not even there. So there you go. Is that the end of the questions? I think that's the end of the questions, guys.
I think so. There's loads more, but they were the ones that I picked out.
We will do this again sometime. We'll answer a load more of your questions,
Yes.
and we'll answer a load more of your questions in the next few weeks. We'll do another sort of rundown of.
Yeah, you're gonna. We're actually going into lockdown again here in Wales on the day that we're filming this.
Yeah.
We're going into lockdown. We're going to be in lockdown over Christmas, unfortunately. So you might have to bear with us. We might have to get a bit creative with some of the episodes.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, we're not going to be able to go to Melody.
No, Melody is in a boatyard, which is about an hour away, so it's not too far. We can be there within the hour. But bear in mind, we are about 4 or 5 weeks ahead with our footage.
We have got some.
So we've got footage for the next month, and that's another thing where you may say put a comment on a video, and we've already kind of addressed that issue by the time you actually see the video.
But still comment away,
Yeah,
because
please
we might
do.
still be scratching our head for answers.
Absolutely. So thanks very much again for watching. Really hope you enjoyed the episode. Sorry this one was a bit longer than normal, but congratulations to those of you that made it to the end. Yeah, I don't know which camera I'm looking at. I'll look at that one. Yeah, happy Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Meta.
We'll see you again next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye!
For watching, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We'd like to thank our patrons: Chris Seville, George Siverson, Henrik Knudsen, Valmita Beneteau, Eric Nimmo, Robbo Ads G, Terry Hamilton, Dennis Small, Matthew Straub, John Bruce, William Chaplin, Michelle Maddox, Clifford Stein. Coffee donations from Brian Webster and Rob White. And also our friends and supporters: Robert Ralph, Chris and Abby, Trev Hedges, Amy and James, Kelvin Jones, Andrew Martin, Pam Wall, Dudley Dick, Mike Osler, Martin Garridine, Timothy Morden, Chris Richards, Emily Turner and Stephen Turner. Have a lovely Christmas, everybody.